Hey, how many of you that you're like me in that you are a coffee drinker, just by a show of hands, or maybe hold up the coffee that you got? Okay, very cool. How many of you, you're like my wife and you are a tea drinker? Let me see a show of hands. Oh, wow, keep them up, okay. This is my tea crowd. 9:30, there was one, all right? So I've been drinking coffee since I was 3 years old. Now, I was supposed to be 6'8", but I like my coffee. Now, I drink coffee because my parents drank coffee, but it started off like that much coffee and that much milk, and then over the years it's grown. And I never really got into tea, and one of the primary reasons is when it comes to making tea, it's almost impossible to make it in like a manly way. Does that make sense? Like you got to hold it with two fingers and kind of do it like one of those deals. I mean, you can't shove it down in there. So Brianna's been the tea drinker in our house. And I was like, oh, that's good for you. Until a couple of months ago. And she brought home chocolate tea. I know. God made it and said it was good, and I did too. Chocolate tea blew my mind. So I had this chocolate tea, and ever since then, for the past couple of months, I've gotten into tea. And so just about every night after dinner, she and I will have a cup of tea together. It is a wild party at our house. Let me tell you what. I mean, we just go insane. Now, we enjoy a cup of tea. I dip it like this in my little teacup like that. I hold it like that. I mean, the whole thing. So our kids, when kids are young, they see parents they want to mimic. So with two parents drinking tea, at least one, if not multiple kids, wants to have a cup of tea with us. Now, we know they don't really like tea, but they see mom and dad. And so Brianna and I pour ourselves hot water, and then we usually pour them a little cup. And I put the tea bag in my cup and let it sit there, for 2 or 3 minutes, and it makes a great cup of tea. Then I just pick it up, and I put it in their cup of water. And I let it sit there for like a minute or so, and then pour some milk, and they take 2 sips and throw it out. But my tea is great. Now, the reason why my tea is great is because it's been sitting there for a long time. Their tea is obviously watered down. It's obviously weaker than my strong cup of tea, and the reason why is because it's already been used, and I put it in there, it's diminished and it's watered down. I share that with you because I think the word love has become watered down in our society. I think it's become used so much in our society. Social media, Hallmark cards, movies, books. I love you. Do they love me? I love pizza. I love work. You love me. You love me not. I'm in love. I'm out of love. And so when you think about love in your relationships, it's a bit watered down. It's a bit weak. And so you think about love, your spouse, your kids, your coworkers, your neighbors, your friends. It has a very weak connotation. Well, I love them, but I also, love pizza and I love what I do. And so I can be in love and I'm out of love. Maybe it's an emotion. Maybe it's romantic. Maybe it's a feeling. I'm not quite sure. And so it's been used so much, it becomes watered down. Now, one of the last things Jesus said before he went to the cross, he said, the world will know you're my disciples by the way you love one another. And when he said that, he's not referencing a feeling, an emotion, a Hallmark card. That word love has such a rich, deep meaning, but over the years we've used it so much, it's become watered down. And so when you go back to what he really meant, he wasn't talking about an emotion. He wasn't talking about romance. He wasn't talking about a feeling or a nice Hallmark card. He was talking about sacrificial love. Love at the highest, deepest, richest level. And so today we're going to talk about love and really what is love and what is the original heart behind the word love. The deepness, the fullness, the richness, not the watered down version. So what I need you to do is bring to the top of your mind a relationship. Don't have to be all of them, just a relationship in your life. Your spouse, your kids, your in-laws, your parents, co-workers, boss, employees. Just think about that person in your life. And when you get that, now you think about the word love and how it intersects. And my guess is the word love, you're going to find, is a bit watered down from what it really means. If you got a Bible, grab it. Go to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. If you don't have a Bible, it'll be up on the screens. Now, 1 Corinthians chapter 13 is arguably the most famous chapter on love in the Bible. You've heard it. If you've been to a wedding, my guess is you probably have heard it read, which is funny because it was written by a guy who, when he wrote it, was not married. But we read it at weddings. Now, it's written on love, and it was written by a guy named Paul. Now, if you're familiar with church, if you're familiar with the New Testament, Paul is like the last person you and I would ever think would expound on love. John, yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. Maybe even Matthew. But Paul, if you know anything about Paul, he's rough, tough. He's not squishy, emotional, but he expounds on love. And if you grew up in church, you know the story of Paul and Silas in jail, and they're singing hymns. And then the jail opens up, if you remember that. At the end of that story, which most people don't ever get to, they are free to go. The jailer comes and goes, hey, the city officials said, hey, Paul and Silas, you're free to go. Please leave. Paul says this. He goes, no. You tell the city officials to come down here and let us out themselves and to apologize to us. And Silas is going, shut up, Paul, shut up, let's go, let's go. This is the type of guy that Paul was. Rough, tough, not squishy, not emotional, but he writes and expounds on love because love is way more than an emotion, more than a feeling, more than a romantic Hallmark card. It is a sacrificial love, and he writes about it. 1 Corinthians 13, we'll pick it up in verse 1. And just imagine reading this like the bride has walked down the aisle and the string quartet has finished playing, and somebody gets up and says this. If I could speak all the languages of earth and of angels and didn't love others, I would only be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I had the gift of prophecy and if I understood all of God's secret plans and possessed all knowledge, and if I had such faith that I could move mountains but didn't love others, I would be nothing. If I gave everything I have to the poor and even sacrificed my body, I could boast about it. But if I didn't love others, I would have gained nothing. And then here's what he says love is. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. And then he finishes up at verse 13. 3 things will last forever: faith, hope, love, and the greatest of these is love. And you're wiping away tears because it's the most beautiful moment you've ever seen at a wedding. And oh my goodness, this is way more than romance. It's way more than a feeling, way more than a Hallmark card. This is a sacrificial love that Paul writes about. This is the type of love that Jesus wants you and I to show to the human beings around us. And let me just simplify it for you, and we'll talk about it this way. What is love? And it's simply this. Love is a long-term investment that requires daily deposits. Love is a long-term investment that requires daily deposits. And if you've ever invested anything in stocks or in real estate or in businesses for the long term, then you know what that means. There's a date out in the future, but between now and then, you're going to make daily deposits or monthly deposits. It's the same way with love. It's a long-term investment, not short-term, that requires daily deposits. And I want to go back, and I want to point out a few things. I want to go back to verse 3, just when we figure out what is love. Verse 3, he says, if I gave everything I have to the poor and even sacrificed my body, I could boast about it. And that word, I could boast about it, in the original Greek language, Paul is talking about social media. Because it really goes, I could post about it is really what he meant to say. He goes, listen, I could do all these things. I could speak all these languages. I could give all my money to the poor. I could sacrifice my body. I could boast about it on every social media platform. But if I didn't have love, it's pointless. Here's what I want you to grasp, that love is the most important investment that you can make in relationships. Love is the absolute greatest, most important, highest value investment that you can make in relationships. But all too often, we invest in money, the right car, the right school, the beach vacation, the Disney vacation, the perfect picture on Instagram and on Facebook, and we invest in an image rather than in love. And the reason why is because we want to boast about it. We want everybody to know that I love them, they love me, we're so in love. But the problem is, if you can be in love, then you can be out of love. And if love is just an emotion, emotions come and go. And if it's feeling, feelings come and go. And if it's romance, romance comes and goes. And so on. I'm in love, I'm out of love. They love me not. Love is a sacrificial term, and it's the most important, the highest value of investment that you can make in a relationship. And so there's nothing wrong with great vacations or the amount of money or the neighborhood that you, but if that is it, and if there's no love, you can have everything but not have love and still have nothing. And you've seen this. You've seen families, you've seen organizations, you've seen marriages, you've seen teams that look good on the outside, right? They can boast about it, they say all the right things, they do all the right things, they have the right pictures, but behind the scenes, under the surface, there is no love, there is no relationship, and it crumbles. The reason why is because they invested in the image rather than in love. You want strong, deep, healthy marriages, families, employee relationships, friendships. Invest in love first and foremost, because you can have everything, not have love, and still have nothing. But for so many lives, the image is pretty, but there is no love behind the scenes. It is a mess. Earlier this week, our washing machine broke, and Brian goes, hey, the washing machine's broken, so I'll go up there, and there's an error code that says 5C. And so I did what any good husband would do. I Googled, how do I fix a washing machine with 5C error code? And the internet is an amazing thing. And sure enough, popped up this little video, how to fix a Samsung washer with a 5C error code. It's a 90-second video. So I clicked play, and jazz music started. And I was like, oh, this is nice. And a nice soft voice comes on. If you have a Samsung with a 5C error code, don't worry about it. Sit back, relax. I'm going to show you how to fix it. I'm like, oh, this is nice. There's a lady there. If you just open up the little compartment on the front, there's a secondary drain line. Just drain it into the bowl. Put the cap back on there. Change the filter. Put it back in there. And you're good to go. Walk outside. You'll experience sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. Oh, my goodness. My experience did not have jazz music. I go up there, and I'm imagining jazz music playing. I'm imagining this dude's soft voice in my head. I was like, oh, this is great. And so I just see the little compartment door down there, open it up. I see the secondary drain line. I was like, this is going so far, so good. I empty it into a bowl, and it's still coming out. Get another bowl, and then another bowl, and then another bowl. I'm like, how much water is in this machine? And it finally gets down so low. But you got to understand, they don't show this in the video, but the drain line's like an inch off the floor, and so the only thing I can drain it in is a cookie sheet. Now, if you've ever filled up a cookie sheet with water and tried to lift it up, it doesn't go well. And in this video, there wasn't a single bath towel on the ground. My life had bath towels all over. I get so impatient, I take the filter out before it's finished draining. Water comes pouring out. I begin to put it back on. We drain it. It's nasty. It took 30 to 45 minutes. It was not like the video said. I walked outside. There was no sunshine and butterflies and unicorns. See, I think all the time we portray this image. Life is good, our marriage is great, our kids are perfect, work is perfect, everything is perfect. Look at what we can do. We like to boast about it, we like to post about it, but behind the scenes, there is no love. There is no investment. And I'm here to tell you, the highest and best thing that you can do for your relationships is invest in love, not emotion, not a feeling, not romance, but that sacrificial love for that person. I want you to go down, I want you to continue reading it. I want you to look at verse 7. Verse 7. As he describes what love is, verse 7. He says, love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through what? Okay. More than 7 of you, I'd sure appreciate it if y'all jumped in there. Okay, let's try it again. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. Not most, not just the good ones. Love endures through all the fun circumstances. Love endures when you've got money in the bank. Love endures through health only. Love endures when all the kids' lives are going great. Love endures when you're best friends forever. Love endures, through every circumstance. The good ones and the bad ones. The happy times and the sorrowful times. One where you're firing on all 8 cylinders and the other one where you're wondering if the engine even runs at all or not. Love endures through every circumstance. Now, hear me carefully. The word love he's talking about is a sacrifice. And often we think of love as an emotion. And if love is only an emotion, then love is about me. But if love is viewed as a sacrifice, then it is about them. Love is an emotion. Emotions come and go. I feel in love. I love them. I don't really love them. I kind of love them. I'm sort of in love. And I'm in limbo between love. And that's love as an emotion. But love as a sacrifice is I love them through every circumstance. Love endures. Love hangs in there. Love is making daily deposits into their life. It's making daily deposits into their life, whether you feel like it or not. Whether it's a great circumstance or an awful circumstance, love endures. Love makes those daily deposits into their life. Love is a sacrifice for them, not an emotion for you. And we think of it as an emotion. We think of it as romance. We think of it as a feeling. And so we fall in and out of it so often. And that's a watered down version of love. What Jesus calls us to, what Paul is describing, is love as a sacrifice, which is about them. It's about your spouse, your kids, your friends, your boss, your employees, the strangers around you, the other human beings you're sitting next to. It's a sacrificial love for them, making daily deposits into their life. Deposits of kindness, of forgiveness, of endurance, of not being proud, of not being rude, of being gentle, being compassionate. It's making deposits into their life. And the longer you know somebody, those deposits change over time. Right? Needs come and go, and people mature and have different life circumstances that change things, but it's your job to go, I'm sacrificing my needs and my feelings because I love them, and so I'm going to figure out what they want deposited in their life when it comes to love, and I'm going to do that on a daily basis. When Bria and I were first married, we'd been married 2 or 3 months, and the church we attended had a marriage retreat, and so we decided to go on this marriage retreat, and we went, and I'm not going to lie, we were probably pretty irritating to be around. Because, and you know what I'm talking about, we still had that new marriage smell on us. You know what I'm talking about? Like a new car smell. Like, oh, I can tell you haven't spilled Chick-fil-A in here before. It's like, oh, it's the same with, oh, I can tell you haven't really had your big first fights. We've been married 2 or 3 months. It's like a second honeymoon for us. And it was very, very different. That was before kids. It was life was easy, and this was great. And I showed her I loved her. She showed me she loved me. Fast forward 14 years and 4 kids later, we still love each other, but it's expressed very, very differently. The daily deposits look very, very different. Fast forward 14 years later, and yesterday I made a deposit with her, but it's very, very different than 14 years ago. Now, it's a well-documented fact on social media that we are proud duck owners. We've owned ducks for about a year and a half. And it was something my wife came to me that she and my oldest son, Daniel, it was a hobby they wanted to get into. She goes, hey, we want to have ducks and have duck eggs. And I'm not a farmer. And I was like, listen, you can do whatever you want to. I just don't want to have to mess with it. That lasted a week. And so for the past year and a half, I've messed with these ducks. But yesterday, it reached an all-time high or an all-time low, however you want to look at it. And yesterday she goes, hey, we have to clean out the duck pens. I was like, what do you mean we have to clean out the duck pens? She's like, well, with all this rain, it has filled up and it needs to be drained. And you got to drill holes in the little duck pen. And we got to drain out duck mess, if that just describes it. And so I was like, babe, I've got to pray and get ready for my sermon tomorrow. I got to listen to God the rest of the day. And she goes, God's telling you to come do this. And so I was like, whatever. So we'll go out there. And y'all, I'm standing in about 2 inches of duck poo. All right, can I just be frank with you? And I'm standing there and I'm shoveling it out. And Daniel's over there and Brianne's over there. And we're all working on this. It's about an hour. It's just nasty, just nasty. Now, I'm standing there, and I don't remember promising to do this in my wedding vows. I promised to love her through sickness and in health, richer and poor, not standing in 2 inches of duck poo. Like, that did not come up in the wedding vows. And we finished about an hour later, and then she comes to me, she goes, hey, and in all sincerity, she goes, I really appreciate you doing that. She goes, I know you're not a farmer, but thanks for helping me be a farmer. And I was like, oh, you're welcome. And it was there where things have changed over 14 years. Like 14 years ago, we were not standing in duck poo together. But fast forward 14 years, there's still love, but it's way more than romance, way more than feelings, way more than emotions. It's that sacrificial love. Make those daily deposits into your kids, into your coworkers, into your spouse, into your neighbors. It's a long-term investment, but it requires a daily sacrifice on your part. So many, many years ago, I preached 1 Corinthians 13, and I came up with a set of questions that have changed and been tweaked over the years and tweaked them even a little bit more. But it's 12 questions that I developed many years ago based off of 1 Corinthians 13. Because when I say, make a daily deposit, you're going, well, that's nice, but what does that mean? I'm going to give you 12 questions that you can ask that person in your life. Spouse, kids, coworkers, ask them these questions, and you will figure out very, very quickly if you're making a daily deposit of love into their life or not. Now, there's 12 questions. They're going to put them up on the screen. And I know some of you, like me, you're OCD, and you're going to want to write them down. We're going to fly through them fast. But at the end, they're going to put all 12 up on the screen. So I would just get your phone out, and at the end, you can take a picture of it. It is 12 questions based out of 1 Corinthians 13 for you to ask the person in your life to figure out if you're showing them that you love them. Question number 1 is this. Ask them, do I show impatience while waiting on you? Some of you failed already. You failed this morning on the way to church. Whatever. It's question 2. Am I nice to you without expecting anything in return? Number 3. Am I genuinely happy when you succeed and I don't? Number 4, do I come across as just a little bit better than you? Number 5, am I sarcastic in a non-funny way to you? Y'all have failed a lot more than 9:30, I'm not gonna lie. 9:30 is like, oh yeah, I did it. You guys are like, oh, we're done. So, number 6, do I put your needs above mine? Number 7, do you walk on eggshells around me? Number 8, do I hold grudges over things from our past? Number 9, am I happy even when you prove me wrong? Don't judge, y'all got your own issues, all right? I got mine. Number 10, do you feel like I believe in you? Number 11, do I bring hope to this relationship? And number 12, do you feel that I am committed to you no matter what? Go ahead and put that list up there on the screen, and you can take a picture of that right there. These are just some questions that you can ask, and it's sitting down at lunch today or breakfast is going, hey, now hear me carefully. As you heard in the laughter, nobody is going to get 100% on these. Nobody's going to go, man, I've nailed it, I'm moving on. All of us have an area that we can improve on. That's why it's the daily deposits of going, okay, man, question 7 or question 3 or question 10. These are things that I can work on and can improve. But it's this idea of going, I care about our relationship so much that I want to make sure that I'm depositing sacrificial love into your life. And this is what sacrificial love looks like. Am I doing these things? Investing in your relationships, the most important to invest in is love. And that happens by daily sacrificing for them. And I want to show you the last verse, verse 13, as he finishes up this thought. Famous verse you've heard at weddings. 3 things last forever: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. Love is a long-term view on relationships. Love is a long-term, forever view on relationships. It's understanding that relationships are not, I'm here today and gone tomorrow, I'm here this week and gone next week. It's a long-term view. Now here's the thing. As brothers and sisters in Christ, if you work with other co-workers, you still take that long-term view, even if they move jobs, or they move out of your neighborhood, or they move out of the country, or if they move away from you physically, there's still a long-term investment, because as brothers and sisters in Christ, that long-term investment is called heaven. And so you invest in the things knowing that, hey, we may see each other physically every single day. We may not ever see each other again, but one day in heaven we will see each other. And so I'm taking a long-term view on this relationship. On marriage, it's till death do we part, not until I find a better person. It's until death do we part, not until we hit a rocky patch. It's until death do we part. You're my son or my daughter through thick and thin. I don't care whether you get straight A's or not, get into the Ivy League school or not. My love for you is not based off of your performance. But what happens is when it becomes an emotion, when it becomes a feeling, when it becomes romance, it's a short-term view. Well, I'm in love, I'm out of love, I'm sort of love you, sort of don't love you, and it's in and out and in and out. Love is a long-term view on relationships. Let's go and listen. There's going to be some good times and bad times. If you invest for the long term, you know that the stock market goes up and down and up and down and up and down, and you don't go, well, I got to get in. You're not day trading love. It's the long-term view going, man, there's an end date inside, and it's called eternity, and so I'm daily depositing the things in my life, up and downs and highs and lows through every circumstance. Love is that long-term view on relationships. And some of you are day trading your relationships day in and day out. The best way to think about this, the best way to treat your relationships, I'll just describe it this way. Think about the way you treat your own car, your own vehicle, versus the way you treat a rental car. I don't know about you, but whenever you get a rental car, give me all the insurance you got. Why? Because it ain't my car, and I'm going to drive it like it ain't my car. I mean, you have a lot more fun in rental cars than you do your own. Why? Well, you're going to trade it in a couple of weeks. You're going to trade it in a week, in a few days. Get all the insurance, and so if they spill things in there, it's a rental. If you get a door ding, don't worry about it, it's a rental. If you run over a speed bump, don't worry about it, it's a rental. But when it's your car, I don't know about you, but for me, don't eat, don't drink, don't even breathe in my car, okay? Just hold your breath until we get that. I want it to be nice. If there's a door ding, if there's something on, I get it fixed. Why? Because I got to live with this thing for many, many years. The rental car, I'm going to trade it in at the end of the vacation. I'm going to trade it in at the end of the business trip. Don't worry about it. I'll get a new one next time I go. And so many treat relationships like they're rental cars. Don't worry about it. It's not that big a deal. It'll be over in a minute. Love with the rich, deep meaning that Jesus intended it for is a sacrificial love with a long-term view on things, not a short-term view. It's a long-term investment that requires daily deposits. The society we live in, love is used so much, it gets watered down. It gets diluted. Jesus said the world will know you're my disciples by the way you love one another, by the way you sacrifice for one another. You want your relationships to be deep and rich and meaningful, the number one thing that you can do is invest in love to them. Do the things daily, show them kindness and compassion and forgiveness, and endure through every circumstance. I'll finish with this, and it takes love and at the richest, deepest, highest meaning of what love is. In 1 John chapter 4, verse 16, John writes this. He says, "We know how much God loves us, and we have put our trust in his love." The next three words is the richest meaning of love. God is love. And all who live in love live in God, and God lives in them. God is love. You want to know what it means to to love your spouse and your kids and your friends. Grow closer to God. Become more and more like Christ. Become more and more like him who embodied love at the highest level. Love was displayed at the highest level on the cross. Way more than a feeling, way more than romance, way more than a Hallmark card. It was a sacrifice at the highest level. That's the call for you and for me, to love our fellow human beings around us. To love our spouse, to love our kids, to love our coworkers, to love our in-laws, to love our parents, to love our neighbors, our friends, teammates, classmates. Long-term investment requires daily deposits. At the end of the day, it's what we're called to do. It's what Jesus modeled at the highest level. We pray for us. Every head bowed and every eye closed. Just right where you're sitting, there's probably somebody at the top of your mind that you've been thinking about this whole time. That you viewed them as a short-term relationship. Maybe today you just go, man, maybe they're sitting next to you. Maybe just squeeze their hand, put your arm around them and just going, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. My love has been based off of circumstances. I haven't exactly endured through every circumstance, and today is different. Maybe tomorrow at your Monday morning meeting at the office, you look at your coworker and go, man, I have used you simply for what you can do for me, and I'm sorry for that. But it's understanding that God is love, and that love was displayed on the cross for you and for me. And so our challenge is to take that, let it fully encapsulate our hearts, and then let it ooze out in every part of our life. Father, I thank you for who you are. Thank you for embodying love. I thank you for sending your son Jesus to the cross and displaying love at the highest level. And so, Lord, my prayer is just mere human beings, that we could grasp just a little bit of that love, because if we do, God, it would completely change us. It would change our viewpoint of friends, of families, of coworkers, of our spouse. That we look at love as way more than a feeling, an emotion, a romance, but as a sacrifice. Jesus, I thank you for who you are. Thank you for the cross, and thank you for the empty tomb. Ask all these things in your name.